Hello, everyone. My name is Teddy Fikre, and I'm running for Congress to represent Virginia's 8th Congressional District. So I launched my campaign almost a month ago. And when I first did, I noted that I was going to run a very unconventional campaign. I'm not running for Congress to climb the ladder, political ladder, or nor is this about money for me. I see it for what it is. I see the issues tearing apart America. It's not necessarily one of politics per se. It's more like a spiritual warfare. I make no secrets of the fact that I'm a person of faith. I believe in an awesome God. But my perspective is never to preach to people. I don't believe in pushing my point of view on anyone. I believe in a God that allows maximum free will. And as such, I believe if I'm blessed enough to be elected and earn the trust of the votes of Virginians, it's through that prism. It's free will, maximum free will at all times. So there's something I want to talk about that today, about the spiritual warfare I believe that is upon us. That is the spirit of, we're not talking about spiritual warfare, by the way. I'm talking about the spirit of antagonism, the spirit of anger. And of course, all these things are rooted in a very deep hurt that people are going through. That old saying that hurt people hurt people. Well, that is manifesting itself in a very big way in our time. And it's leading our country into a very dark direction. I came here to America in 1982 at the age of 7 from, my family and I fled Ethiopia because we're getting away from what I pray is not about to happen here. Political strife, rampant hopelessness, when people feel like they have no future, it turns very ugly. And too often what happens is people attack other people that remind them of that same hopelessness. So tribalism becomes very pervasive. And then that tribalism gives way to strife. And next thing you know, there's bloodshed on epic proportion. And that's what happened in Ethiopia. The 1960s and early 70s, there was a big famine in Ethiopia. And then that gave way to protest and a lot of, social upheaval. And then shortly thereafter, a group took over, promising hope and change. Next thing you know, 500,000 Ethiopians perished within a couple of years. And so what happens way too often is that demagogues come around and they take advantage of people's, level of frustration, of angers, of hopelessness. And then next thing you know, we're being pitted against each other. This is exactly what happened in Ethiopia. And this is exactly what happened throughout most of Africa. It was, the way that Africa was subdued and divided by imperialists was very simple. It was by pitting tribe against tribe. And next thing you know, people end up fighting each other while the wealth of nations are being siphoned off overseas. And that's precisely what's taking place in America. It's been taking place here in America for a very long time. Except these tribes are not necessarily based on ethnicity. They're based on color, they're based on ideology, gender, orientation, religion, endless numbers of tribes. And every day there's a new identity being, foisted upon us. And what these forms of labalisms, what they do is they prevent us from seeing our common humanity. And instead of realizing that we're all being pillaged, instead of realizing that there's a common source of suffering, we end up Du Bois once talked about, the people some people having the mentality of crabs in a barrel, where they end up clawing each other to prevent progress. Sadly, that's becoming the norm these days. And I don't say these to be insulting, but people that are deeply hurting end up clawing at each other instead of clawing at the barrel that is suppressing all of them. And this form of, I want to call it identity politics, but that has, identification of its own. Like it's become the domain of people on one side of the political aisle or the other, and even that becomes a form of division. So, but we'll call it what it is. It's tribalism, right? Again, when people feel that they have no hope for their future, when they're undergoing massive financial uncertainties, and more people are becoming insolvent financially and becoming homeless, then they turn to antipathy, and then they become susceptible to demagogues, charlatans that come around saying, well, those people are your enemies. And then next thing you know, we're fighting each other. And meanwhile, the people that are doing this, the very few at the top are laughing at us. I had an interview on Friday with Garland Nixon, and I noted that billionaire class don't have tribes. They don't care about politics. They care about one thing: money. That they see one color, green. And sadly, the vast majority of human beings are not like that. We've been conditioned and programmed to see our differences and not what we have in common. And so that's what I'm talking about. When I talk about the fact that there's a spiritual warfare, it's this essence of division that separates one from the other. And then next thing you know, it's brother versus brother, neighbor versus neighbor. And of course, for me as a person of faith, this is exactly what it talks about in the Bible as well. A time where chaos reigns supreme, where division becomes the new norm, where hatred amongst brothers and sisters and even within families. Look how many families being torn apart. So, for me, the reason that, and I'm learning this every day, by the way, and trust me, I'm not coming to you and saying that I have this all figured out. It's very hard to give grace when you feel like you're being hurt by somebody else. I will tell you, 7 years ago, I endured 2.5 years of homelessness. And for the first year and a half, almost year and a half, well, for the first year, I had a level of grievances towards some I thought betrayed me. And that level of deep resentment kept me literally in bondage for a year. And so it wasn't until I turned inward and started being grateful for the small things. And along the way, I started realizing the commonality of our pains, the commonality of humanity. Before 2015, when I became homeless, I was working as an associate at Booz Allen Hamilton. For those who know that name, that's where Edward Snowden used to work at, making six figures. I had a very good life. You could call it a privileged life. And I was a deep partisan. I was a hardcore Democrat. I used to vilify Republican voters. I used to, collectively judge the ills of the world and lay that at the feet of white people. And then 2 years of homelessness, 2.5 years of homelessness. And there was a crystallizing moment for me when I was at a homeless shelter in South Carolina in Greenville. One day, I woke up, went to the cafeteria, and it's still this is still something that it deeply touches me to this day when I think about this. And I look up, and I see a 7-year-old white girl, eating there in a homeless shelter amongst everyone else, all the broken people. It's one thing to see, adults, and I'm not even minimizing that. Pain is pain. But it's even more hurtful when you see a child at the age of 7, before she even has the chance to start fulfilling her purpose in life, before she even has a chance to know exactly right from wrong. But thank God for, at least she was, at that moment, children can only know so much about tribulation. So she was going around lifting us up. She was smiling and she didn't judge anyone. She didn't see colors. She didn't see anything. She just saw human beings. But when I saw her, it was a tremendous agony I felt. The deep injustice of it all. This level of inequality with children, irrespective of their color, have to be living in homeless shelters. And it doesn't have to be this way. America has riches to feed everyone, to take care of everyone. But the spirit, again, going back to the spiritual warfare thing, the spirit of greed, of wanting too much, avarice, these things make very few hoard everything. And then the rest of us are fighting. And again, even within the rest of us, whether you call us the bottom 99%, or the working class, middle class, upper middle class, the poor, the vast majority of humanity. I call us the ever-growing silenced majority or silenced supermajority, because our voices are being nullified every day by a government that does not pay attention to our needs at all. Tupac once said they got money for wars, but they can't feed the poor. Just now, billions of dollars in new weaponry being shipped off. Weapons every day. Let me tell you who that's going to enrich. The defense consultants, like the firm I used to work for, Booz Allen Hamilton, like Boeing, like Raytheon. The only ones that, and who's going to suffer on both sides when those weapons get sent overseas? On one side, Ukrainians, on the other side, the average Ukrainians and average Russians. Fighting a war to deliver peace is, I want to say it was George Carlin that once said, fighting war to deliver peace is like, having sex for the sake of virginity. It really is. At what point are we going to learn? At what point are we going to stop policing the world and just allow the spirit of, it might sound kumbaya-ish to some. I know, but the opposite just is not working. Our country has been at a state of war for 50 years plus. And what has that brought us except more homelessness, more veterans committing suicide? When I was homeless for the 2.5 years, I couldn't. It was astounding to me what percentage of the homeless were veterans. Veterans. We ship them off overseas, waving flags. They come back broken by war, and we ignore them. Every day, I drive by a homeless man in Alexandria every day who has a sign that says, "I'm a veteran, God bless you, help me." This is deeply immoral. But, it goes to the issue before us, because we the people are ignoring these things. And every day we're being grounded to dust. Imagine humanity being in a huge vortex, a meat grinder. There's some that's already been through the grinder and they've been pulverized at the bottom. There's some who are actually in the jaws of the machine itself, being actively grounded, and then there's some who are on top of them. But every day, that machine, that lever keeps turning, and all of us are getting closer and closer to the teeth. That's gonna, take away the what we know to be normal, the homes that we take for granted, the means and the ability to feed our family. The other day I was reading an article. It said truckers are about to be replaced by robots, and upwards of 500,000 jobs could be disappear because of this. that every day that happens, that is, first they come for the truckers, then they come for Uber drivers. All these things are becoming mechanical, and robots are taking jobs. Who do you think is coming next? So what's our fate going to be? We're going to sit at home, be guaranteed what's called a universal basic income, a UBI, and we become basically dependent on the state. Do you know what happens when human beings lose the means to take care of themselves, to be productive in life? We die spiritually. Instead of giving us welfare and UBI, just leave us alone so we could be productive on our own. And that's why I'm running. These issues, whether it comes to community empowerment, individual empowerment, making sure that government just stays out of our daily lives. Government's supposed to be there to do the big things, build roads, ensure the collective defense of a nation, not to go around the world, policing the world and dropping bombs everywhere and occupying countries. That's not that. George Washington said it himself, stop being the police of the world. And he also said, don't go down the lane of partisanship, of factionalism. And yet, who we are, with two parties, two factions that have monopolized power in D.C., preventing anyone else from being able to actually compete and win. And we're going around policing the world and amassing fortunes for the military-industrial complex, really the military-financial governmental complex. And the rest of us have been, turned into bystanders and inching closer and closer to collective insolvency. So enough, no more. We need a new day in America. We need a new deal. But that new deal will never come from politicians, Democrats or Republicans, who are enriching themselves through the casino owners. We need a new deal from people, everyday people that understand the stresses of life, that understands what it's like to feel gas and feel the pain in our pockets, to understand what it feels like to go shopping for food and be shocked at the growing expense of basic items. So, but at the core, the reason that we haven't gotten there, the reason that we keep going further and further apart away from justice, is because we've lost the ability to be empathetic towards one another. And again, it took 2.5 years of homelessness for me to realize that there's a commonality to our pains. I say this all the time. When you link, the only way that we could advance our individual case is through a collective approach. The more that we fight based on sectionality, sectional movements, we're doing the job of the status quo. We further the status quo. So what we need to realize is that we need to reach across the social divides. For example, I say this to African Americans: the pains of the past. And by the way, even I, as a first generation Ethiopian, I can never really fully comprehend the full depth and scope of the African American experience. Generations of what starts out as enslavement, of Jim Crow, of state sanctioned terrorism. Generational, which has given birth to generational poverty. These things I will never fully comprehend. But yet, I know this one thing. Pain is universal. Because I, too, coming here to America, with my ancestors in Ethiopia, underwent a Holocaust in the 1930s as Italy bombed Ethiopians and killed more than 1 million through mustard gas, when the world ignored the suffering of Ethiopians. What happened in the 1970s, 500,000 plus dying, including some within my family. These are pains that continue to this day. I talked about, for example, the homelessness that I went through in 2014. That was not an outlier. I've seen a lot of painful experiences in my life, whether it's seeing my father pass away in front of me, my mother struggle with depression, and the ways that she hurt herself in the past, which deeply hurt me in the process. And by the way, just like Job, when you get restored in life, that doesn't mean that pains and tests will stop. Because as of right now, at this exact moment, there's a test that I'm going through that makes the homelessness of 7 years ago seem like patty cake by comparison. And it's and yet through it all, I'm redeemed by this one hope that I know in the end, irrespective of whatever hatred that might come before us, at any time, and this is the story of all humanity, not just mine. This is not just my testimony. That eventually, the night will give way to the light, and that love will overtake evil. That I know to be true, and that's what keeps me going, despite the pain, despite the level of hopelessness that sometimes comes upon me. I know that love overcomes evil, and that's why I'm running for Congress. Even though there might be tests that I'm going through, having to work 2 jobs to make ends meet. The various tribulations that might be going on in my life. I am, running for Congress because of one certainty that I have, that I know that people, let me just say this for anyone really, but especially for African Americans, who in a way their pains are being used by a lot of people within the political realm, not to address the root causes of injustice, but to divide society and to really turn the suffering of people into political billboards. There's a notion of God's chosen people. That statement has been misunderstood for a very long time. When you chose it, well, first and foremost, let me just say, the God that I honor, the God that I follow and believe in, does not play favorites. We're all God's children, all of us. Whether you are, my complexion, a lighter complexion, from Asia, from Africa, from Europe, from South America, it doesn't matter. We're all God's children as we choose it. So there's no hierarchy within humanity. But when it talks about God's chosen people, you're not chosen to be rich and successful. That's not what chosen means. Chosen means to be chosen for suffering. And within, just like Jesus was chosen to go through and do a suffering. And there's a redemption that came through that. So when you're chosen, this should be chosen for pains, for oppression, for injustice, to be scattered at the 4 corners of the world. But through that chosenness, we have a choice too, through those pains. Because when we, instead of internalizing those pains and then manifesting those pains into anger and hatred and vengeance and wrath, if we actually turn towards love, towards empathy, then we could literally turn the world upside down. And that is true of African Americans and everyone that's been chosen for pain. Think about this in a familiar within the setting of a family. There's 4 kids and one of them has some type of a handicap or some type of a physical or mental malady. That child and those children grow up, and at some point all of them look back and say, "My God, what an amazing sibling that we had, of that one that overcame." And even that one that overcame, they realized that he was not necessarily handicapped. He was, but he or she was, but they were able to overcome and fulfill a great purpose in life through those obstacles. That's how I see it. We have a choice to fight hatred, racism, sexism, all these isms that divide humanity, the greed, and the deep injustices that are bound throughout the world. We could do it through, division, through anger, through hate, through wrath, or we could do it through love. There's a part in the Bible that I really love where it says that, when princes come out of Egypt, and Ethiopia shall quickly turn their hand back to God. See, for me, Ethiopia is not just a country. It's also a continent, the whole continent of Africa. But it's also Ethiopia within the Bible personifies humanity. Because life started in the, human life, and both, by the way, both science and faith affirm this, started in that region where I'm from. There's one thing that all human beings have in common, which is that we come from one region. We came from one Mani, right? So in a way, I see Ethiopia as not just personifying the country where I'm from. It's a humanity writ large. So We have a choice when princes or politicians, prime minister, whatever it is, they come out of Egypt to attack, which is what that verse is talking about. Ethiopia shall quickly turn her hand back to God. As in, we even if you don't believe in God, if we replace God with love, we turn back to love, and that's how we redeem humanity. We cannot defeat evil by playing into the tactics of evil practitioners. We have to become about love, and that love entails empathy and entails self-love, because a lot of the issues that we're seeing start and end because we're hurting within ourselves. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "Be the love that we want to see." That love starts within, and then it flows without. So I'm rededicating. I'm going to start that within me. What I've realized over the years, I've been trying to make a difference for decades. Always trying to take care of my community, of people that are struggling, of trying to help aspiring business people. Always trying to do something for other people while taking away from myself. What I realize now is that this notion, the statement of love your neighbor as yourself, that means you have to love yourself. And this is a problem that a lot of people that are deeply empathetic, they give at the cost of themselves. So love starts within, and then it flows without. So that's the message of today. And like I said, I'm running for Congress, not to be a politician, not to give canned speeches, not to do all kinds of photo ops, and especially not to divide people. I'm trying to drive at the common denominator of humanity, right? Which is the fact that we all experience pains, and if we work together, we could all have a commonality of success, shared success, a collective success, and that's what my campaign is about. And again, my name is Teddy Fikre, and I'm running for Congress here in Virginia's 8th Congressional District, which is comprised of Alexandria, Arlington, and Southern Fairfax. You can find out more about my campaign by going to www.fikre, number 4, VA, that's like in Virginia, VA.com. And, you can look me up on social media at Teddy, TEDDY _ FIKRE. And then, the campaign has across social media. It's Fikre, FIKRE, number 4, VA. Look us up on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook using that. By the way, Fikre means my love. And that's essentially the message. If there is a campaign message that stands out above all, it's love. Just like my last name means my love, it's love. Love is the way towards justice. So here's to hoping and praying for love to be the spirit, and for us to turn away from the spirit of division, hatred, antipathy, indifference, and wrath, and give our hand back to God, for those who believe, and for those who don't, to love. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Have a blessed day.